Hello everybody, and welcome to the AFTA Day of Action presentation by GROW, Graduate Rights and Our Wellbeing. Today we'll be going over our graduate worker survey that we gave out around October to a variety of different workers, and we will analyze the themes. This survey is meant to target the experience of various graduate workers across our campus and to see how the pandemic is affecting them on an individual basis. First, you might ask yourself, who is GROW? GROW is Graduate Rights and Our Wellbeing. Our goal on campus at Purdue is to build solidarity among graduate workers and to generally improve our working situations, not just for grad workers, but also for staff. We are the people who make Purdue work, and we only have as much power as our most marginalized people on campus. AFT Academics is a union that represents a portion of some of the people who are already in GROW. This is a national union that represents full-time faculty, graduate workers, staff, postdoctoral research, undergrads, and academic librarians who are the backbone of higher education in the United States. Today is their day of action to discuss democratization of higher ed. First, it's important to say that graduate workers have already been exploited for a very long time. They typically work many more hours than they're actually paid for, and this conversation has been a long time coming and has been occurring for many years. COVID-19 has just exacerbated and exposed these structural inequities and issues that already face graduate students who don't have a voice at the table. One of the biggest themes that we saw in our survey with over 100 respondents was that there was a massive increase in the added responsibilities and workload of students. As an example, one student gave testimony that our workload as teaching assistants this semester has increased by almost 50%. Our department promised us a reduction in this workload, but that change never came. Those familiar with the long and storied history of our grit-based, pull-yourself-up-by-your-bootstraps administration are likely not very surprised by this next theme, a massive deterioration of mental health across graduate workers in our response group. Here's testimony from one of our graduate workers. Their lab mate has been depressed because she lives far out in the country and doesn't have a lot of social interaction. She tried to find therapy in CAPS, Purdue's Counseling and Psychological Services, but CAPS was not able to treat her, and they ended up finding an independent therapist and having to pay out of pocket. This is just one example of what happens when austerity is imposed upon a whole campus. This death by 1,000 cuts of our psychological services has gone on for many years amidst budget cuts in our university. Now exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, students are being forced to go to off-campus solutions and having to pay out of pocket. We should note that these results have been heavily echoed by the graduate school's own survey that was put out recently. A disproportionate number of grad workers feel that the university-mandated breaks for their mental health are not even being followed, that these built-in reading days that are meant to give alleviation where before spring break or fall break might have done so are not being respected by faculty members or by various other administration. On top of all this, many of our graduate workers noted a massive fall in productivity because of this underserving of our mental health services across campus. There has been a lack of commitment from the Purdue administration to making sure that our students are well. Next, we found that there is a surprising number of students who have in some way felt that they were compelled to be on campus, whether explicitly or implicitly. We found a lot of testimony about how some research students were required to come to their lab to perform a variety of experiments. Many times, they would have to take on the responsibilities of students and workers who couldn't come into labs, like undergraduates or their peers. Perhaps more surprising, we found many instances where advisors claimed that they preferred their research students to come in and onto campus in order to perform reading and writing tasks that could have been done remotely. And this doesn't just affect research productivity. Our teaching assistants have been hit especially hard through these circumstances. Many of them felt that their schedules as graduate students were completely thrown out the window and not taken into account when selecting which courses they'd have to teach for a given semester. An especially heartbreaking example of what can come from this feeling of compulsion to be on campus is the following testimony from a graduate worker. I don't have to work on campus, but my partner, who lives with me, does. In December, my dad, who lives in town, was diagnosed with late-stage lung cancer. So while I want to spend as much time with him as possible, we are also terrified of accidentally giving him COVID. Unfortunately, since my dad doesn't live in the same house as us, I don't qualify to go online due to the change in life circumstance that would allow us to opt out of in-person activities. As many of you know, our Our graduate workers have families, and they have people that they need to take care of. A recent example of Purdue's austerity targeting our families is the near demolition of a childcare center. On February 1st, many people across campus found out the news that a childcare center was to be demolished, with no plans for a new facility to meet the needs of graduate workers, faculty, staff, and their families. While you might see this reversal on February 3rd by the administration as an act of benevolence, you should really be looking towards the broader campus community and the activism of our AAUP, or American Association of University Professors chapter at Purdue. It was through organizing 1,100 Purdue folks that the AAUP was able to pressure the administration to not demolish this core component of childcare on campus. This is just one example of what worker power can do. Now we have to address the worsening and toxic work environments that many graduate workers brought up in our survey. Several respondents noted a sort of professional neglect. There was a refusal by their advisor to engage with them, communicate, and many felt left out to dry. Advisors weren't meeting with them, and several PhD students claimed that they felt completely alone creating their dissertation. Many of our graduate workers have felt pressured by their advisor and the broader administration not to bring anything up. This disproportionate power dynamic makes them feel that they can't disagree with their advisor or provide pushback, lest there be professional and academic consequences. We also found testimony from graduate workers expressing a degree of discomfort with sharing certain bits of information with their advisor. If this was a normal situation, there wouldn't be any reason why my principal investigator, or PI, would need to know my health issues. Finally, one of the most common themes that we saw throughout our survey was that many workers felt that they had been subjected to administrative lip service, where there were public claims that they were going to help students and staff and ensure that everything was being adhered to. Many felt that there was actually no help being offered whatsoever. While student testimony might have been gathered, nothing had really been done to improve their lives. And we think that the following really sums it up best. Purdue has put public relations, PR, before people, but should be putting people before PR. Purdue's dedication to its own brand in the public eye has been at the expense of graduate workers and staff across our campus. We especially saw a trend that many students were experiencing a void of social interaction. Several wanted to be around people who were researching what they're doing, but felt like there had been no infrastructure set up to do so. Even more people just wanted to foster connection with other graduate students. They didn't feel so isolated and alone. So you might ask yourself, how can we go from this lip service of the administration and the many failings of what's been going on at Purdue into something productive? How can we, as graduate students, get together and make our conditions better? While there are many organizations that do this at the department level, we, as GROW, are trying to connect all graduate students and workers across our campus in order to fight for better working conditions and to build a community. Just last year, GROW's petition targeting more transparency and improved conditions for workers across Purdue's campus received over 900 signatures. GROW also holds democratic values very close to heart. We are by and for graduate students from many different departments across campus. And joining GROW means that you'll be able to immediately have a say in the direction that our organization takes to fight for a real voice for graduate workers at Purdue. Beyond this, I also encourage you to learn more about AFTA Academics, which is a great union that is supporting a democratic transformation of higher education. They have all manner of resources to learn more about organizing and strategic planning among different issues, and I really encourage you to check out their website. Follow us on our various forms of social media and connect however you're able. We would love to have you be part of this worker-led movement on Purdue's campus. And be sure to check out the many other events that are going on today for AFT Day of Action. Don't wait for someone else to save us. Join AFTA and GROW today so that we can start building power on campus.